Shabbat Shalom, everyone. My name's Daniel, and I'm the Vegan Nazarite. Well, we're doing the Torah reading, roughing it version today. Wife and I are at the lake house, getting ready for the spring. So, but like usual, the Torah must go on. So today we're going to be doing Tetse, which apparently is one of the Torah readings with the most commands to Israel in there. So, Tetse, and the prophet today is going to be Isaiah 54, 1 to 10. I hope this is going to work. I'm actually streaming through my phone, so it might work, it might not. Depends on the bandwidth we need, and if I have enough through my phone. So hopefully everything's going to work, and I'll be set up for doing this on a regular basis. Yes, my hair is a mess. We got no water here. We're literally roughing it. All we have is the wood stove and keep us warm, and everything's still frozen over with at least 3-4 feet of snow everywhere. So, yeah, that's the state we're in. But we got lots of food, and it is the Sabbath day, so we'll be doing the rest of the Sabbath day as per normal, but on a very reduced basis. We've got basically nothing here except for the basics. So let's start. Today I'm using a different version of the Tanakh just because I didn't have the same 1918 Tanakh that I usually do, the one that's very similar to the King James. But hey, like I said, we're roughing it, so old may not be old English like usual, but hey, we're roughing it, and we'll go with what we got. So let me start. Tetse, which is Deuteronomy. We're in Deuteronomy 21:10. When thou goest forth to battle against thine enemies, and the Lord thy God delivereth them into thy hands, and thou carriest them away captive, and seest among the captive a woman of goodly form, and thou hast a desire unto her, and would take her to thee your wife, then thou shalt bring her home to thy house, and she shall shave her head, and pare her nails, and she shall put the raiment of her captivity from her, and shall remain in thy house, and bewail her father and her mother a full month. And after that thou mayest go unto her, and be her husband, and she shall be thy wife. And it shall be, if thou have no delight in her, then thou shalt let her go whither she will, but thou shalt not sell her at all for money. Thou shalt not deal with her as a slave, because thou hast humbled her. If a man have two wives, one beloved and the other one hated, and they have borne him children, both the beloved and the hated, and the firstborn son be hers that was hated, then it shall be that in the day that he causeth his sons to inherit that which he hath, that he may not make the son of the beloved the firstborn before the son of the hated, who is the firstborn, but he shall acknowledge the firstborn, the son of the hated, by giving him a double portion of all that he has, for he is the first fruits of his strength. The right of the firstborn is his. If a man have a stubborn and rebellious son that will not hearken unto the voice of his father, nor the voice of his mother, and though they chasten him, will not hearken unto them, then shall his father and his mother lay hold on him, and bring him out to the elders of the city, and unto the gates of his place. And they shall say unto the elders of the city, our son, uh, and they shall say unto the, this is our son, is stubborn and rebellious. He doeth not hearken unto our voice. He is a glutton and a drunkard. And all the men of the city shall stone him with stones, that he die, so that shall put away the evil from the midst of thee, and all Israel shall hear and fear. And if a man have committed a sin worthy of death, and he be put to death, and thou hang him on a tree, his body shall not remain all night upon the tree, but shall uh, surely bury him that same day. For he that is hanged is a reproach unto God, that thou defile not thy land which the Lord thy God giveth thee for an inheritance. Chapter 22. I'm just setting up my screen here so I can see the chats. Chapter 22. Thou shalt not see thy brother's ox or his sheep driven away, and hide thyself from them. Thou shalt surely bring them back unto thy brother. And if thy brother be not nigh unto thee, and thine own not, then shall bring it home unto thy house. And it shall be with thee until thy brother require it, and thou shalt restore it to him. And thou shalt do this with his ass, thou shalt do this with his garment, and thou shalt do this with every lost thing of thy brother's, which he hath lost, and thou hast found, thou mayest not hide thyself. Thou shalt not see thy brother's ass or his ox fallen down the way, and hide thyself from them. Thou shalt surely help him to lift them up again. A woman shall not wear that which is pertaineth unto a man, neither shall a man put on a woman's garment. For whomsoever doeth these things is an abomination unto the Lord thy God. If a bird's nest chance to be thee in the way, in any tree or on the ground, with young one or eggs, and a dam sitting up on the young, or upon the eggs, thou shalt not take the dam with the young. Thou shalt thou shalt in any wise let the dam go with the young, thou mayest take it unto thyself, that it may be well with thee, and that thou mayest prolong thy days. When thou buildest a new house, then thou shalt take a parapet for thy roof, that thou bring not blood upon thy house, if any man fall from thence. Thou shalt not sow thy vineyard with two kinds of seed, lest the fullness of the seed which thou hast sown be forfeited together with the increase of the vineyard. Thou shalt not plow with an ox and an ass together. Thou shalt not wear a mingled stuff, wool and linen together. Thou shalt make the twisted cords upon the four corners of thy covering, wherewith thou coverest thyself. If any man take a wife and go into her and hate her, and lay wanton charges against her, and bring up an evil name upon her, and say, I took this woman when I came nigh unto her, I found not in her tokens of virginity, then shall the father of the damsel and the mother take and bring forth the tokens of the damsel's virginity unto the elders of the city at the gate. And the damsel's father shall say unto the elders, I gave my daughter unto this man to wife, and he hated her. And lo, he laid wanton charges, saying, I found not thy daughter's token of virginity, and yet these are the tokens of my daughter's virginity. And they shall spread the garment before the elders of the city. And the elders of that city shall take the man and chastise him. And they shall fine him 100 shekels of silver, and give them unto the father of the damsel, because he hath brought an evil name upon a virgin of Israel, and she shall be his wife. He may not put her away all his days. But if this thing be true, that the tokens of virginity were not found in the damsel, Then they shall bring out the damsel of the door of the father's house, and the men of the city shall stone her with stones, that she die, because she wrought a wanton deed in Israel, to play the harlot in her father's house. So shalt thou put away the evil from the midst of thee. If a man be found lying with a woman married to a husband, then they shall both of them die. The man that lay with the woman, and the woman, so shalt thou put away the evil from the midst of Israel. If a man find a damsel that is a virgin, that is not betrothed, and lay hold on her and lie with her, and they be found, then the man that lay with her shall give unto the damsel's father 50 shekels of silver, and she shall be his wife, because he humbled her. He may not put her away all his days. Chapter 23. Thou shalt not abhor an Edomite, for he is thy brother. Thou shalt not abhor an Egyptian, because thou was a stranger in his land. The children of the third generation that are born unto them may enter into the assembly of the Lord. When thou goest forth in the camp against thine enemies, and thou shalt keep thee from every evil thing. If there be among you a man which is not clean by reason of that which chanceth him by night, then he shall go abroad out of the camp, he shall not come in within the camp. But it shall be, when evening cometh on, he shall bathe himself in water, and when the sun is down, he may come within the camp. Thou shalt have a place also without the camp, whither thou shalt go forth abroad, and thou shalt have a paddle among thy weapons. And it shall be, when thou sittest down abroad, thou shalt dig therewith, and shalt turn back and cover that which cometh from thee. For the Lord thy God walketh in the midst of thy camp to deliver thee, and to give up thine enemies before thee. Therefore shall thy camp be holy. He see no unseemly thing in thee, and turn away from thee. Thou shalt not deliver unto his master a bondman that is escaped from his master unto thee. He shall dwell with thee in the midst of thee, in the place which he shall choose within one of thy gates, whether it like them best. Thou shalt not wrong him. There shall be no harlot of the daughters of Israel, neither shall there be a sodomite of the sons of Israel. Thou shalt not bring the hire of a harlot or the price of a dog into the house of the Lord God for any vow. For even both these are abominations unto the Lord thy God. Thou shalt not lend upon interest to thy brother, interest of money, interest of victuals, interest of anything that is lent upon interest. Unto a foreigner thou mayest lend upon interest, but unto thy brother thou shalt not lend upon interest, that the Lord thy God may bless thee in all that putteth thy hand into, in the land which thou goest to possess it. When thou shalt take a vow unto the Lord thy God, thou shalt not be slack to pay it, for the Lord thy God will surely require it of thee, and it will be sin in thee. But if thou shalt forbear the vow, then it shall be no sin in thee. That which is gone out of thy lips thou shalt observe and do, according to as thou hast vowed freely unto the Lord thy God, even that which thou hast promised with thy mouth. When thou comest into thy neighbor's vineyard, thou mayest eat grapes until thou have enough at thine own pleasure, but thou shalt not put any in thy vessel. When thou come into thy neighbor's standing corn, then you may pick the ears with thy hand, but shall not move a sickle unto thy neighbor's standing corn. When a man taketh a wife and married her, then it cometh to pass, if she find no favor in his eyes, because he had found some unseemly thing in her, Then he write her a bill of divorce, and give it into her hand, and send her out of his house. And she departed out of his house, and goeth and become another man's wife. And the latter husband hated her, and writed her a bill of divorcement, and give it into her hand, and send her out of his house. Or if the latter husband die, who took her to be his wife, her former husband, who sent her away, may not take her again to be his wife, after that she is defiled. For that is an abomination before the Lord, and I shall not cause the land to sin, which the Lord thy God giveth thee for an inheritance. When a man taketh a new wife, he shall not go out into the host, neither shall he be charged with any business. He shall be free for his house 1 year, and shall cheer his wife whom he hath taken. No man shall take the mill or the upper millstone to pledge, for he taketh a man's life to pledge. If a man be found stealing any of his brethren of the children of Israel, and he deal with him as a slave, and sell him, then that thief shall die. So shalt thou put away the evil from the midst of thee. Take heed in the plague of leprosy that thou observe diligently, and do according to all the priests that the Levites shall teach you. As I commanded them, so shall you observe to do. Remember what the Lord thy God did unto Miriam by the way as ye came forth out of Egypt. When thou doest lend thy neighbor any manner of loan, thou shalt not go into his house to fetch his pledge. Thou shalt stand without, and the man whom thou lend shall bring forth the pledge without unto thee. And if he be a poor man, thou shalt not sleep with his pledge. Thou shalt surely restore to him the pledge when the sun goeth down, that he may sleep in his garment, and bless thee, and it shall be righteousness unto thee before the Lord thy God. Thou shalt not oppress a hired servant that is poor and needy, whether be of thy brethren or thy strangers that are in thy land within thy gates. In the same day thou shalt give him his hire, neither shall the sun go down upon it, for he is poor, and settled his heart upon it, lest he cry unto thee against the Lord, and it be sin indeed. The father shall not be put to death for the children, neither shall the children be put to death for the fathers. Every man shall be put to death for his own sin. Thou shalt not pervert the justice due to the stranger, or to the fatherless, or take the widow's raiment to pledge. For thou shalt remember that thou was a bondman in Egypt, and the Lord thy God redeemeth thee justice. Therefore I command you to do this thing. When thou reapest thy harvest, in thy field, and hast forgotten the sheaf in the field, thou shalt not go back to fetch it. It shall be for the stranger, for the fatherless, and for the widow, that the Lord may bless thee in all the work of thy hands. When thou beatest thy olive tree, thou shalt not go over the boughs of it again. It shall be for the stranger, the fatherless, and for the widow. When thou gatherest the grapes of the vineyard, thou shalt not glean it after thee. It shall be for the stranger, the fatherless, and the widow. And thou shalt remember that thou wast a bondman in the land of Egypt. Therefore I command thee to do this thing. If there be a controversy between men, and they come into judgment, the judges judge them by justifying the righteous and condemning the wicked. Then it shall be, if the wicked man deserve to be beaten, that judge shall cause him to lie down and be beaten before his face, according to thy measure of wickedness, by number. 40 stripes he may give him. He shall not exceed, lest he should exceed and beat him above this with many stripes. Then thy brother should be dishonored before thy eyes. Thou shalt not muzzle the ox when he treadeth out the corn. If thy brethren dwell together, uh, and one of them die and have no child, the wife of the dead shall not be married abroad unto one not of his kin. He, her husband's brother, shall go unto her and take him to wife, and perform the duty of a husband brother unto her, husband's brother. And it shall be that the firstborn that she beareth shall succeed in the name of his brother that is dead, that his name be not blotted out of Israel. And if the man not like to take his brother's wife, then his brother's wife shall go at the gate of the elders and say, my husband's brother refuseth to raise up a brother unto his name is it in Israel. He will not perform the duty of a husband's brother unto me. Then the elders of the city shall call him and speak to him, and if he stand and say, I like not to take her, then shall his brother's wife draw nigh unto him in the presence of the elders, and loose his shoe off his foot, and spit in his face, and she shall answer and say, So shall it be. So shall it be done unto the man that doeth not build up his brother's house. And his name shall be called in Israel the house of him that his shoe loosed. When men strive together one with another, and the wife of one draweth near to deliver her husband out of the hand of him that smiteth him, and putteth forth her hand, and taketh him by the secrets, then thou shalt cut off her hand, thine eye shall have no pity. Thou shalt not have in thy bag diverse weights, a great and small. Thou shalt not have in thy in the house diverse measures, a great and small. A perfect and just weight shalt thou have, a perfect and just measure shalt thou have, that thy days be long in the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee. For all that do such things are unrighteously are an abomination unto the Lord thy God. Remember what Amalek did unto thee by the way that he came forth out of Egypt, how he met thee by the way, and smote hindmost of thee, that all that were enfeebled in thy rear, when thou wast faint and weary, and feared not thy God. Therefore it shall be, when the Lord thy God hath given thee rest from all thine enemies round about, in the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee for an inheritance to possess it, thou shalt blot out the remembrance of Amalek forth from heaven. Thou shalt not forget. Well, there we have it, folks. That's the Torah reading for today. I just want to go back quickly and go through a few verses that I highlighted. I'm trying to be less selective on the verses because my Torah readings are basically stretching over 1 hour, and I'd like to actually keep it under an hour. Okay, so the first verse I have today is 21:22. And if a man have committed a sin worthy of death, and he be put to death, and thou hang him on a tree, his body shall not remain all night upon the tree, but thou shalt surely bury him the same day. For he that is hanged is a reproach unto God, that thou defile not thy land, which the Lord thy God giveth thee for an inheritance. Okay, so that's basically what happened when Yeshua was nailed to the tree. The reason Yeshua was taken down before sunset is exactly for that reason, because a man who was condemned was basically a curse on the land, and to make sure the curse didn't defile the land with blood, with not innocent blood, but guilty blood, I guess we can say, the man had to be removed and buried right away. So this is exactly what happened to Yeshua after he was pronounced dead. And this one is a little bit more for me. I wasn't sure in the Torah if eggs and and what kind of, if eggs were actually permissible to eat. We know that some birds are permissible to eat in the laws of the food, but I wasn't sure if eggs were. And we read here in verse 6, if a bird's nest chance to be before thee in the way, in any tree or on the ground, with young one or eggs, and the dam sitting upon the young or upon the eggs, thou shalt not take the dam with the young. Thou shalt in any wise let the dam go, but the young thou make it take unto thyself, that it be well with thee, and thou mayest prolong thy days. So obviously, when we read this verse, we see that eggs are definitely permissible, and even very young birds or hatchlings, we could say. Um, so you can take the young, but you have to leave the mother. Uh, so there we have it, folks. Again, that was more for me, but now I know eggs are actually permissible in the Torah. Um, in verse 12, we read the law of the tzitzit. Thou shalt make unto thee twisted cords upon the four corners of thy coverings, wherever thou covereth thyself. So God commands us to put uh, twisted cords of white and blue on the four corners of our garments. Uh, so there we have it. That's where we see the command for the tzitzit. So I just want to comment that I did find in the Torah the command for the tzitzit. There it is right there. Uh, but there's some other things that people consider holy uh, that I didn't find in the Torah. And one of them was the shal that Jews use. I didn't find that in the Torah. So, um, like I preach every week, it's always the same. If it's in the Torah, it's fine. And if it's not in the Torah, well, we don't add or remove to the Torah. So, uh, is there a need to do these religious things that people may consider holy, but in fact, when we read the Torah, it's not there. So I'll just leave it at that. That's your choice. You're going to have to uh, account for yourself on the day of judgment. So it's not for me to tell you what to do. Uh, it's up to you to read the Torah and find out God's commands. Uh, Next one I have is 23, verse 8. Thou shalt not abhor an Edomite, for he is thy brother. Thou shalt not abhor an Egyptian, because thou was a stranger in his land. The children of the third generation that are born unto them may enter into the assembly of the Lord. So, with all the unrest right now going on in Israel, Iran, we could say, or we could also say Persia, which is how it was called back then, uh, we see that God prevents his own people uh, we could even say all the patriarchs uh, at one point were in the land of Israel. From Jacob, his 12 sons of the tribes of Israel, they were all in Egypt, and we were commanded by the Torah not to hate the stranger. So we're also told in the Torah not to hate uh, the people, thy own brothers of the tribes of Israel. So we can effectively conclude that God commands us not to hate anybody, not the stranger, not not the native born, uh, and not even your own slaves and your own. We read a little earlier about the wives, where you're not to mistreat a wife, even if you hate her. So I want to say that there are some Jews that promote hate, and they are just as guilty as the strangers, for because God tells us in no uncertain terms right here, thou shalt not abhor an Edomite, for he is thy brother. Thou shalt not abhor an Egyptian. Well, we know Egyptians weren't our brothers because they're basically not from any of Abraham's children. Okay, so there we have it, folks. The Torah says don't hate anybody, so do what the Torah says. Okay, next one I have is verse 11. If there be any man of you that is not clean by reason that of which chanceth him by night, he shall go abroad out of the camp, he shall not come within the camp, but it shall be when evening coming on, he shall bathe himself in water, and when the sun goes down, he may come within the camp. So that's basically a law of, we could say, uh, nightly emissions. When a man basically uh, spills his seed in a dream. I'm going to be a little crude here. In English, we call this a wet dream. Well, when that happens, we are basically told by the Torah that we need to be cleansed in the mikvah. And so, and it doesn't have to be a mikvah, it can be any body of water, uh, but we need to be cleansed around evening time. And after the sun sets, then that person is considered clean again. So uh, we can't be, no Israelite at this point can be totally clean because none, all of us uh, are unclean because there's no way to do the water of purification. We don't have the temple anymore. We don't have the water which is mixed with the ashes of the red heifer. So the only way we can be clean uh, is exactly that way: is to bathe ourselves before, after finishing a sexual action, and that's true for both the man and the women. The woman, uh, the woman who receives the seed is also unclean. But in this case, it's more as a bodily, as a nightly emission. Okay, 23, 22. When thou shalt take a vow unto the Lord thy God, thou shalt not be slack to pay for it. The Lord thy God will surely require it of thee, and it will be sin in thee. Okay, so the Holy Spirit is all around us, and sometimes it might even take us over. And when that happens, uh, you might be full of joy, you might be full of gratitude to the Most High because of the blessings He gave you. Um, and you might utter a vow. I know I certainly did a few times. Uh, and these are separate vows away from the vow of the Nazarite. Um, One thing I did vow is that I did a vow to give up something for a better career, we could say. Well, when we read in the Torah, that vow is still standing. Uh, Whether or not I did receive the blessing or not, I made a vow unto the Most High, and it's up to me to honor it at all times. Uh, Else, your vow turns to sin. And again, I'm going to go back to the teachings of Yeshua, who basically teaches us not to do any vows. Why? Exactly for that reason. Because the Torah says if you do a vow and you don't honor it, that vow becomes a sin. Now, makes me think of another passage in the New Testament. Uh, the people that vowed to kill Paul, uh, they in the book of Acts, they basically took a vow not to eat until they were going to capture Paul and take him prisoner. I don't remember if they planned to kill him or not, but anyways. So those men who basically vowed never to eat until they captured Paul, and we know through the book of Acts that Paul did get away. Uh, that's a perfect example there of Yeshua's teaching. Be careful of your mouth and what you say, because your tongue can turn you into a sinner very easily, and we can see it. It's in verse 22 here. That God expects you to honor your vow no matter what it is. So Yeshua teaches us, don't take any vows, because you're probably doing a reckless thing if you're not going to honor it in the first place. So, and another thing, a little bit of a witness here, all those vows that you did, some of them you might forget through the ages, but in time the Spirit will remind you of them, and it's up to you to go back and be faithful to what you promised the Most High Elohim. Okay, moving on. Now in chapter 24. I have here verse 24:7. If a man be found stealing any of his brethren of the children of Israel, and he deal with him as a slave, and sell him, then that thief shall die. So shalt thou put away the evil from the midst of thee. Well, there we have it, folks. All the patriarchs, and we're talking Joseph's brothers and sisters here, at least the ones who were actively selling him off as a slave, they should have been put to death. So when Joseph, and I'm talking about the story of Joseph and his 12 brothers at the end of Genesis here, they basically turned their younger brother from Rachel into a slave by selling him to the Ishmaelites. Now, they were so afraid when they found out that Joseph was still alive, and that's basically the reason. The Torah tells us that no Israelite should be treated as a slave. Even in some of the other passages, Israelites are, even the ones that sell themselves to a master, are basically not to be considered as slaves. So anyways, when Joseph's brothers are afraid of Joseph, well, there we have, I know that this happened way before the law of Moses, because it's in Genesis, but I mean, there's the Torah right there. They should have never sold him off as a slave in the first place. But in the end, it's a lot better than what they ultimately had planned for him. Chapter 25. Okay. Thou shalt not, the next one I have is 25:4. Thou shalt not muzzle the ox when he treadeth out the corn. And it sounds like a fairly simple command. But the reason I highlighted it is Paul, in one of his epistles, I'm not actually sure which one, I don't remember, basically quotes exactly this Torah. And he basically, in his writing, Paul basically attributes uh, that you will basically feed your workers. So if the ox is not to be muzzled when he's working, uh, I guess the ox would tend to want to eat the corn while he's working. Well, Paul attributes that to some followers of Yeshua, that they should also be fed when they're working. And I just want to say a little bit about Paul. A lot of people think Paul is a bad teacher or a bad prophet, or basically tells people to abandon the law of Moses. Well, if Paul is actually quoting the Torah, what does that make him? Well, I'll be let you know right away. It makes him an Israelite of the tribe of Benjamin, exactly like what he says he is. And he follows the Torah to the letter. So, Paul, when he says things, uh, like in Galatians, that the law won't do you a good thing, you have to ask yourself, what is Paul actually talking about? And if Paul is a true prophet, well, he can't take a word out of the Torah or do one change of it himself. And he actually states that in Galatians, that he is not adding and removing from the law. So if Paul is saying something strange in the New Testament that seems to go against the Torah, you have to stop and listen and to actually figure out what he's actually trying to say. And I did an extensive, if you go to my Reddit site, Vegan Nazarite, uh, I did a few, I actually did a lot of very intricate, very detailed studies on some of Paul's teachings. And the most controversials, especially in Galatians and some in Romans too. Uh, Paul is actually an Israelite, and he's more of a Karaite Jew. So he doesn't really listen to the rabbis, but he does honor the Torah, and which is actually exactly what Yeshua and the prophets did themselves. So just a little bit of a guide for you. Next one I have. Okay, the other one is a verse 10. And shall his brother's wife draw near unto him in the presence of the elders, and loose his shoe from the foot, and spit in his face, and she shall answer and say, so shall it be done unto the man that do not build his brother's house. And the name shall be called in Israel the house of him that has shoe loose. Well, we actually hear that in the book of Esther, um, when she's supposed to be taken in by one of her kinsmen, and that kinsman refuses, then Boaz, which is the next in line, actually takes her. But this actually happens in the book of Esther. So it's fun for me to see the Torah come alive in some of the other books of the Tanakh, because we see uh, righteous believers of the Torah doing the Torah exactly the way it's supposed to be. The next one, verse 13, thou shalt not have in thy bag diverse weights, great and small. Thou shalt not have in thy house diverse measures, great and small. A perfect and just weight shalt thou have, a perfect and just measure shalt thou have, that thy days may be long in the land which the Lord giveth thee. For all that do such things, even that do unrighteously, are an abomination to the Lord thy God. Okay, so we live in the today where corporations basically can do whatever the heck they please. They do agreements, they change their agreements, they change their contracts, they change their laws, they change their prices. Well, guess what? That's basically uh, abusing the consumer. And we see that in the Torah, we're supposed to have just weights. So all this shrinkflation, to basically start off with a product and then remove 10% in weight or 10% in volume, whatever the measure may be, whether it is volume or weight, um, that's basically against the Torah. So if you're a believer in the Torah that's also a business owner, there's the law. Uh, do righteous pricing, uh, do righteous weights. Um, I know here in Canada, I used to work in my dad's butcher shop, and all our scales had to be tested to make sure they were accurately measuring, whether in pounds or in kilograms, it doesn't matter, as long as the scale measures, because all the prices for meats usually are in weight. So you can't basically sell a pound of ground beef and then later on sell uh, a different a different measure for less at the same price. So uh, we have to be honest in all our trades. And here's the Torah for that. All right, that's it for the Torah for today. Let me move to Isaiah. Today we're going to be reading the prophets. Let me get there in the bookmarks. Isaiah chapter 54. Okay, Isaiah, where are you? Isaiah 54. One to 10. Yeah, okay. Verses 1 to 10. Sing, O barren, that thou didn't bear. Break forth into singing and cry aloud that didn't travail. For more are the children of the desolate than the children of the married wife, saith the Lord. Enlarge the place of thy tent, and let them stretch forth the curtains of thy habitations. Spare not, lengthen thy cords, and strengthen thy stakes. For thou shalt spread abroad on the right hand and to the left, and thy seed shall possess the nations, and make the desolate cities to be inhabited. Fear not, for thou shalt not be ashamed, neither shalt thou be confounded, for thou shalt not be put to shame. For thou shalt not forget the shame of thy youth, and the reproach of thy widowhood shalt thou remember no more. For thy Maker is thy husband, the Lord of hosts is his name, and the Holy One of Israel is thy Redeemer, the God of the whole earth, and he shall be called. For the Lord hath called thee as a wife forsaken and grieved in spirit, and the wife of a youth. Can she be rejected, saith the Lord? For a small moment I have forsaken thee, but with great compassion I will gather thee. In a little wrath I hid my face from thee for a moment, but with everlasting kindness I will have compassion on thee, saith the Lord thy Redeemer. For this is of the waters of Noah unto me. For I have sworn that the waters of Noah should no more go over the earth. So I have sworn that I would not be wroth with thee, nor rebuke thee. For the mountains may depart, and the hills may be removed, but my kindness shall not depart from thee, neither shall my covenant of peace be removed, saith the Lord that hath compassion on thee. Well, why would Isaiah write something like this? Well, if we go back in Genesis, um, both there's quite a few. Sarah, or should say Sarai, before she became Sarah, She was barren, and that was Abraham's wife. And let's go back. I think Samuel's mother also was barren for a little while, and John the Baptist's parents were barren also. So through these people that may have seemed cursed at the beginning, such as a barren wife, God makes his presence known. Uh, Sarai gave birth to Isaac, and then it was Isaac that kept the blessing of Adonai. Ishmael, not so much. Yes, he did get blessed also and became the 12 princes of Persia, we could say. Uh, but God sometimes uses, actually, you could say, uses the less fortunate um, to make himself known. So the barren wife may be barren for a while, but it's not always going to be so. And the barren wife, in this case, we could talk of Sarai, and Rachel also was barren. And again, Rachel brought forth Joseph, who redeemed his own brothers and all of Israel when he brought them to the land of Egypt after the not the plague, but the famine had started. So look, if you're looking for God's holy people, they're not going to be the obvious ones. It's not going to be the priest that's dressed in fabulous uh, colors. It's not going to be the pastor who's on TV in $1,000 suit. Um, God's real people are exactly that, real people who have suffered, who went possibly years. If we consider Sarah, she spent most of her life as a barren wife, and but through her, God blesses Abraham, gives him a real son, uh, and then Isaac, and then Jacob comes after that, and then we have the 12 tribes of Israel. So, like I said, appearances, when it comes to God, appearances can be very deceiving. Some holy people may look holy, but when you consider the Torah, they're not holy at all because they literally added a bunch of things that they think are holy that are not in the Torah. And it can go the other way around also. If you remove some parts of the Torah, uh, we see all the feast days uh, exactly that, as holy feast days. And then there's the other feast days that are made up. And they sound holy, but they may not, they're, they're not really. Um, I'm just going to leave it at that. Isaiah is talking about the barren wife here, uh, basically to say that God uses real people to make Himself known, real, humble, uh, not very flashy people. So if you're used to the glamour and the lights and the shows and the spectacles and That's probably not where God is. Uh, the reasons those pastors or preachers do those things is basically smoke and mirrors, is to take you away from the real things. The law of Moses, right here. So that's what makes a man holy. We read a few commands, or a woman, we read a few commands, and along with those commands, Yah says at the end that your days in the land may be long, that your life may be long, that you uh, may not be cursed. Because when people use the poor, when people abuse uh, the disabled, uh, those people know that they're being mistreated, and they cry out to God, and God loves them like the barren wife. Uh, so God listens to them, and hence will enact uh, judgment on them. So that said, I hope it wasn't too much of a different setting. Uh, there's going to be more of these Torah versions from the cottage, and hopefully everything worked out today. I don't know. I'll soon find out when I sign off YouTube. So for everybody, thank you for listening. Thank you for uh, letting me preach the Torah to you. It's always an honor and a privilege because I know how many other preachers out there, I could say, uh, basically ignore what's in this book. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Signing off live from the lake house. May you have a good and blessed week. Amen. And I can't find the button. Live in stream. There we go.